In order to make this video, I had to look back at footage from a year and a half ago and to see how the garden started to where it is now. I'm so grateful. The past year and a half has been such a roller coaster. But the one thing that's been consistent is my love for gardening and for sharing my passion with you guys. And I don't even know why I'm getting emotional after looking at all of this footage. But I just want to say thank you to everyone for following my journey and for helping to inspire me to push on. Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jason, and today we are going to be doing a balcony garden tour. Now this video is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to be focusing in this video on the flowers and my balcony pond and also the wildlife that my garden attracts. And then next week I'm doing a separate video on the fruit and veg that I'm growing on the balcony garden, as I think if I was to do both combined it'll probably be an hour-long video, so I don't want to put you guys through that. Let's get straight into it. In all honesty, we're at the end of the season, so the garden's looking a little worse for wear now, but what I will do is show you what the garden looked like at the start of the year and what it looked like at its prime. In April 2021, my garden was pretty much an edible garden. I was planning on continuing this, but I lost all of my seeds in the greenhouse disaster. This led me to start incorporating more flowers into the garden, which dramatically increased the wildlife. Let's see the difference. Now these boxes were absolutely full of geraniums and salvias, and they were brimming with colour. They also had my favourite type of marigolds, which were French marigolds, but as you can see they're a little bit worse for wear now. There are plenty of holes all the way through, and would you believe that is because they've become home to caterpillars. If you've been following me on TikTok, you will have already met Skylar, who's one of my caterpillars. It was a real special moment for me to actually find caterpillars on the garden, since I've not seen anything like that in the year and a half that I've lived here. It just goes to show that with all of these cut flowers and having such a great abundant food source, the insects and the wildlife will find their way. Here's my balcony pond setup in April 2021. I made a video planting some bare root lupins, and here they are, they started to come to life. I planted some nasturtiums, hoping that they would grow up the trellis. And in my greenhouse, I have some hollyhocks and some foxgloves, and I was hoping to make a really nice display here. Fast forward to summer 2021, and it looks beautiful. Tracy, my bumblebee friend, she used to visit every day and she loved the lupins. The foxgloves also did well, and surprisingly so did my delphiniums. One of the plants that I've really loved this year are these salvia. They're called hot lips. I've had to get used to chopping back. I'm not very good at it. I always feel like I'm being really mean, but I found that giving these guys a hard pruning actually really pays off. Now these guys flowered and I gave them a hard pruning to come back and give me a second bloom, but I just think that the flowers are absolutely gorgeous. One of the best things about balcony gardens is you can just change your containers as the season goes. By this point, the lupins were spent, so I just moved those containers to another part of the garden. The water lilies and the duckweed began to take over the surface of the balcony pond. I loved the height and the colour that the achillea brought to the garden. These delphiniums were on their second flush, so I let them go to seed for next year. In this small pot you'll find Tim, but looks can be deceiving. Let's have a look and see just how big he really is. As you can see, he's absolutely massive. In fact, he's one of several passion fruit vines of which I've grown from seed, but he is the only one that has produced flowers. Understanding the microclimate of my balcony has been vital. The left hand side of my balcony gets the least amount of direct sunlight, so most of my flowers are on this side because they can't take the heat. This hanging basket doesn't look like much. In fact, there are 2 strawberry plants in here, but they've been completely overshadowed by one plant that has decided to completely take over this basket. Now in here there is what most people would call a weed, and yes, you are right, it probably is classified to most people as a weed. This plant was growing up, it tried to get past the window box and it couldn't for a long while. Eventually it found its way, and then it slowly rose and became one of the biggest plants on the garden. And although it's just a weed, it happened to be the very first plant that Tracy would land on every single day that she came up to the garden. That's important because sometimes what we think of as weeds are actually really important to our wildlife. They are pre-programmed to find these plants which we identify as weeds and continuously eradicate from our gardens. It may be worth next time you see some weeds coming up in your garden that instead of removing all of them, that maybe you leave 1 or 2 for your pollinators. This canna lily has been one of my favourite plants on my balcony. In fact, she's probably one of my standouts. What I love about this plant is the dark foliage. This is one of the only plants that I do not have to worry about on a sunny day. These darker leaves really absorb the sunlight, so I know on a really hot day that this plant is going to do super well. She's also beginning to flower as well, so I think what I'm going to do is bring her inside for winter, because I don't think that she is going to be able to withstand the wind since she's so tall and her leaves are so big. So what I've decided is next year I'm going to explore this a little bit further and try and get some more darker leaved plants in my collection. I took this a little bit further, and as you can see, the starship lobelia was absolutely flourishing. This dahlia would have done a decent job, however it got destroyed by aphids. One of my most interesting flowers on the cloud garden happens to be this one. It's called a canary, and as you can see, it's got these beautiful bell-shaped flowers. It just sends out non-stop flowers. It's absolutely beautiful. Now the one drawback to this plant though is its attraction to pests. It is absolutely covered in aphids, and no matter what I do, even if I try to get rid of the aphids, they will be back within a few days. So I tend to actually keep this watered well, but I also fertilize it a lot because it's continuously producing brand new flowers, and it's also being continuously attacked by aphids. But as you can see, it's still doing well. I don't always get wins, so let me show you one of my favourite areas of the garden. I call it the struggle bus area. Anything that looks like it's dead or practically is dead goes into the struggle bus area, and I'll do my best to see if I can revive them. And you know what, sometimes I can be pleasantly surprised. Let me show you. I'm extremely conscious about showing you my wins and my fails. Sometimes social media makes everything look perfect, but I find beauty in imperfection. Remember that dahlia that I showed you? Well, I chopped it back, and now look at all this fresh new growth. For a year and a half, I've laughed at the plight of you ground level gardeners. But this year, I've had to come to terms with the destruction that these slugs can really do. They eat my dahlias like I eat Nando's. Most people will have thrown them away, but I decided to persevere. I cut them back, and now look at the new growth. Sometimes we can be really quick to chop these plants up and throw them away, but I've learned with a bit of care and nurture, you can bring things back. I try to apply this same lesson to my mental health, and that is why gardening is so important to me. For instance, this salvia was cut back, and now look, 3 weeks later, she's out of the struggle bus area and blooming. Remember the Aquilia from the balcony pond? It turns out they don't do too well in the intense heat of my garden. But look at the bottom. The cloud garden is literally my sanctuary. Day or night, I find myself out here getting completely lost. Seeing the cloud garden at night, it's no wonder that I have so many caterpillars for several different species of moth. Being 18 floors up, this garden must look like a lighthouse to them. It's interesting to me that an insect so primitive is attracted to the cloud garden for the exact same reasons that I am. It's the perfect sanctuary and escape. You know, I started off this video after having looked back through all of this footage and thinking about all of the negative things that I've had to overcome. But now that I've finished this video, I see all the positive things that I've done. I see all the change that the balcony has gone through. I see the connections I made with all of you, and I'm really proud. I'm really proud of my achievements. I'm really proud of this garden. I'm really proud of the little community that we've built. And once again, thank you. Thank you very much for your support. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do and join our community. Hopefully, I'll see you again soon. Bye! The tour starts off in quite a vulnerable place, and the reason is when I record videos, they get sent to my cloud, and I'm oftentimes deleting whatever footage I have on my phone to make more space. And so for the past week, I've been going through the cloud looking for all the footage that I needed to make the tour. And one of the things that I slowly became aware of is when I'm feeling sad, sometimes I will pick up my camera to record videos, and me looking through the cloud was essentially me revisiting all of those negative times. I think it was important for me to leave that in and then segue into your normal standard introduction, because that, as somebody who suffers with mental health, is really common that we may feel a certain way, but what we choose to allow other people to see is completely different. And I know that that probably would make a lot of viewers uncomfortable, but I thought that was an important point to make. I had so much footage on this cloud, but I didn't want the tour to be your regular, here's some flowers. I wanted to kind of tell a story, but I wasn't content with just telling one story, here's my balcony. I thought it would be really interesting to see lots of different stories within one story, and then also see how everything is connected. So if you look at the dahlia, for example, at the start of the video, I said it wasn't doing well. I showed you what it looked like, and then I showed you the new growth. So there's several different stories there within one overarching story, and that essentially is representative of why I find gardening therapeutic. So I tend to overthink everything, and one simple 10-minute video can take me sometimes up to 8 hours to make, and I'll be thinking of the different nuances within the video. So this one, for example, it started off in a vulnerable place, but I didn't want it to end there, and it was interesting to me to use the same music to end the video as what started the video. The contents of what I was saying was positive, and I'm hoping that if you made it through to the end and you saw that segment, it was a positive moment as opposed to a negative one. Equally so, we kind of built up into seeing the cloud garden at night, and what I didn't want to do was to have the end of the video have been recorded at night time. So I purposely recorded the ending to the video the very next morning, and I think that is why there was the element of hope. Essentially, I had edited the video. By that point, I slept on it, and I kind of saw everything in a bit more of a positive light. I saw everything that I had achieved and was proud, and so I wanted to also incorporate that feeling into the end of the video. That's the level of detail that I think of when I'm making videos like this, and so at times it can be overwhelming, and I beat myself up a lot, and sometimes I put a whole lot of work into thinking about these minute details, but sometimes the video is not even watched to its full extent, but it doesn't matter, because me thinking along these lines is kind of what helps me and makes the whole producing these videos fun. Anyway, I thought I'd just share with you some insights, because there will be some people who are brand new to the channel, brand new to me and to our community, and I just wanted to take the time to explain to you all some of the thoughts and choices that I make when I make these videos. I was originally going to do a separate video of behind the scenes, but I thought that sometimes people click on the video and they might forget to subscribe or to press like, and then they'll never see that creator again. So it made more sense to add this component into the original video in hopes that maybe a few people will stick around. Anyway, that's enough from me. Thank you very much for watching, and if you haven't already subscribed, please do, and hopefully I'll see you again soon. Bye!